with Collette and Jill. Here we are. You are live. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Oh my gosh. I guess I don't need my glasses on. No. I'm going to go get my tea, though. Yes, it's taking us a while to get set up. Somebody's watching on Facebook already, so that's cool. Hi, everyone. Hi. We just wanted to preface our show, our conversations show, conscious conversations show with social distancing. We are exactly 5 feet 6 inches apart. I won't touch the end of that now that she's touched it. It's over there for disinfection later. And I wanted to also let you know about, I'll bring it over here. This is our, I know everything's reversed, it's kind of weird, our Vessi fundraising, because now that you aren't at work, hi Julie, you could be planting seeds and bulbs in your garden, and I can send this to you. You just have to ask for the information, and you can pay through e-transfer. And hey Julie, can you just tell us if you can hear us okay? I'd like to know. And anybody on YouTube, if you can hear us okay. I don't know if anyone's there, but
maybe I should talk. How loud do I need to be? Like, is this appropriate level? Can you hear what I'm saying? Oh, somebody heard me.
No, just watch. Hey, you guys, let us know if you can hear us.
Let me know if you can hear me from where I sit.
You know, we're gonna have to get loud mics. Missy says yes.
Yay!
You might have to project a little bit.
I'll try.
Anyway, so here we are. I feel like we're in the living room of Centers for Spiritual Living. Hi over there. What's the weather like over there, Collette?
Pretty good. Pretty mild, slightly cold.
Yeah, we turned the heat off here for, I don't know, it's been off for a couple of days now. We didn't turn it off. We just turned it down because why heat an empty building? Mm-hmm. And I got here today deciding to come and work. It's so much easier to work in my office here. Nobody else is here but Collette and I and Maria. Anyway, I had to turn the heat up. It's freezing in here. I'm just going to check this and see. Julie, I can hear you, but it's a little bit quiet. Okay. We're going to have to do something about that.
The funny thing is,
that's pretty good.
I was like, okay, so everybody has to know that this whole online thing that we've been doing for several days is very much well outside of my comfort zone. And it's unlike anything I've ever done before. So new to me, very uncomfortable. And very courageous, because I really launched this this kind of idea and okayness with the idea on behalf of the center. I don't think I would ever, those of you that know me, would ever choose to do this for myself. So here I am. And so I came to tonight, because tonight's the longer one that we've done so far. Is that going to change the thing?
It will change it for YouTube, but not for, I don't know. I'm not going to bother. You just have to talk loud.
Yeah, okay. So I came to tonight, to our longer one, with the idea that I would pretend that the cameras weren't here. And now, funnily enough, I have to sit facing the camera and I have to talk loud. So this is really outside of my, it's like, no, you don't get to pretend that you're just having a conversation with Jill, because you have to yell in this direction.
She's going to keep talking about how she feels about this for a minute.
Oh, we're funny.
Because we can get this like that, and then you can be.
Well, you're going to almost put it behind me.
Well, then it just be louder, I think, if it's right here.
Okay.
That'd be better.
We're going to go with that.
Okay. Whew.
So here I am, way outside of my box.
We're in a box.
And I'm still going to pretend that I'm having a conversation with Jill only.
Oh yeah, because before we've been doing it like on Zoom and talking to each other on Zoom. But
And even that's a stretch for me. Even this whole thing has been a stretch. So that's why I said I was going to come in here and I was going to go, okay, I'm just going to pretend the camera's not there. And now you're like, face the camera and project your voice. Oh dear.
we're laughing. Sometimes I think that, well, I don't think, I know that when we're going through all these changes that that we've been going through in our culture, in our world right now, laughter is a great thing to have. And I invite you to find humor. I saw, oh, my notebook, I'm gonna have to get my notebook. I saw Blake shared with me on from Facebook. I know that I don't go on Facebook, but he shares with me the stuff I want to see. And it said, I've only been quarantined for 3 days, and already I'm tired of looking after my mom's grandkids. And I was like, my mom's grandkids. It took me a while before I got that. And I'm like, that's funny. So yeah, it's a strange time. And, Collette's talking about being uncomfortable. I know we're not supposed to touch my face, but I promise I'll just touch my face and then I'll disinfect before I touch anything else.
We're trying our best.
And I'll just keep them inside my sleeves. And it's weird. I came to the office today and Maria was already here. She's been coming daily, and I asked her if she was okay, because at first she's here every time I come, and I wondered if she was sleeping here or hiding out here or something. And she said she just likes working. She just got her office newly decorated, and she wants to use it. And look at me trying to get closer to you, Collette. Trying to get closer to the camera on Facebook. And I want to pull my chair over. Anyway, so my first thought was, oh my God, what if she's not okay? Like, maybe she's in her office and she's not okay. And so I texted her because I didn't want to touch her door. Like, this is all so weird, right? Because I thought, well, that wouldn't be good protocol. And anyway, she came out and she goes, I'm fine. And we had a lovely little conversation, and she's just got her office newly decorated. And so she's enjoying it. So that's great. And I honestly think I can admit that I've been avoiding work, that I have purposely hanging out with my husband, which has been really great. I've talked about that in our conscious conversations this week already. Mm-hmm. And we've been having really great time together. And I've been gardening, and I've got a list of all these things I'd like to do around my house. And coming into work or avoiding work meant I was avoiding paperwork. I was avoiding applying for our mortgage to be delayed, our payments for our mortgage at the center, so that it can take some of the financial stress off. And I was avoiding tough conversations with people. And I realized, even talking to Maria, pretending everything's okay and I've got my cool. And I came in this morning. Actually, I had a dream 2 nights ago that we were being chased. I was in a boat, and I think it was in a boat, and we were being chased by sharks, and we couldn't get away. It was like my first nightmare relative to what's going on for us right now. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and just the whole financial thing at home, the financial thing at work, the financial thing for others, and knowing that I've got to sit down. I feel like I've got to sit down and figure it out. I've actually got to, pull up my socks and stop pretending this isn't happening and get to work. You know what I mean? And I went for a mountain bike ride before, and that felt really good, but I still had this urgency, like I had to get to the office and figure it out. I had to water the plants that are thirsty, and So there was this panic and anxiety I was feeling that, and I want to let everyone know, including yourself, and see how this measures for you. It's really important that we know what our primary need is, because, and however you figure that out, we've used driving styles here at the center. And so I've learned that my primary need is control. And so, sure enough, I felt anxious, leaving work to pile up over a course of many days. I felt anxious, knowing that there's undealt with things that are getting messier and messier. So, for me as a controller, it makes sense that in order to feel safe, it's important for me to organize parts of my life that I do have control.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept dipping in and out of the kitchen. I don't know if I'm segueing all over the place, but I kept dipping out of the kitchen this morning. We have a renter in our home right now, and they've also been laid off work. And so we were talking about agreements around our house and sanitizing behind each other and in front of each other and being respectful around that. And he's really great. And the conversation, I didn't want to be in the conversation anymore. And so what do? I went into our yoga room where I'm growing seedlings for the garden, and I just started planting seeds.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I can't control that conversation,
mm-hmm.
but I can plant seeds and make things grow. I know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think everybody could relate at some point right now. Like, I've already heard it in tons of people's conversations, like people through around the center, friends, family, who are all kind of, if they have any sort of self-awareness, they're going like, wow, I just was like, oh, maybe I'll go for a bike ride, or maybe I'll do this, and maybe I'll spring clean, and maybe I'll drink some wine, and maybe I'll,
right?
And it's like, wow, like what are like I think we're like taking from almost the list of like, it's like our go-to list.
Mm-hmm.
Our go-to list, like when all else fails, I can do these things. I can check off the boxes here, all
right.
around security, and control.
For sure. And we each have a different way of doing that,
mm-hmm.
right? I mean, Brene Brown, I was listening to her first podcast that just came out on Thursday. Highly recommend you look it up.
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking about FFTs or TFTs, terrible first time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all in one of these FFTs right now.
Mm-hmm.
You can look up the real meaning of that. And how that's the place of vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And she says the first thing to do is to name it.
Mm-hmm.
COVID-19. Like, just name it. Yeah. I've been avoiding saying the word, talking about it, giving it any kind of energy, because I have a belief that if I say it, I'm going to give it more energy. And she says actually the opposite is true, that by naming it, we normalize it and we bring it, and what we require as a humanity is to feel normal inside, is to feel neutral in however,
mm-hmm.
whatever is going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. When I name something or speak, say name it. I don't need to, like, even when I just bring something up and I share it with somebody else,
mm-hmm.
it diffuses, or it like shifts the power of that thing, where it's like creating all this turmoil inside of me,
right,
to the power to me, like, okay, here's what I got to work with. And you say everybody, goes to that list, seeking whatever they're seeking differently. Everyone has their own way of doing it. And at the same time, it is a distraction list.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you've already used avoidance a handful of times in this, in the start, the word avoidance, in the start of this conversation. Like, what are we really avoiding? What are you really avoiding when you're like, I'll just do this instead of that? And,
Yeah, right. Feelings. you know, that feeling of that vulnerability for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Collette and I have been working for you out in the audience
Mm-hmm.
really hard at not talking about what we were going to talk about tonight. As a result, I have no idea what I was going to talk about tonight because we really wanted this to be, we don't want this to be a conversation that we've rehearsed or have planned bullets. Our intention is to have a conversation with you, and
One that's really real.
yeah, you know, I listened to some of the recorded messages from other centers this morning, and for me, they had no appeal because it was staged, it was rehearsed, it was pre-written, and yet what I know is that there was so much more going on in that person that even though the invitation was to inspire me to feel or to understand or to be inspired in any way. Like you were talking about going into Thrifties, the grocery store, you can't help but to feel a different energy. It's like, I can't hear what you're saying because, what is that expression? Because your actions are speaking so loud or something like that?
Right, yeah. Yeah, totally. Tense, and like I was walking around with a smile on my face purposefully, like, you know, I'm okay, this is okay, everything's okay, and yet I was swimming in like a tense, you know, pretty tense, like unsettled energy. I was going like, doesn't matter that me and this person are trying to smile at each other because like what we're swimming in is really thick and you know, crazy, really. You know what you just said about the sort of I don't know, pre-recorded, staged shows that you've like checked into begs the question for me about, like, because balance is a huge value of mine. Begs the question for me, like the difference. I want to know how you feel about this, the sort of, on one hand, act as if, you know, as if everything is okay or whatever. Act as if whatever you want and what you want, you know, is what you'll get or whatever. And it's okay to feel your feelings, kind of thing, because those feel like two different worlds sometimes. They do. Especially at a time like this.
It's a great question. I think we have to be really real with where we're at in any moment. You know, my act as if is really, I was talking to my my dear teacher, Dr. Ken Gordon, today, and I thanked him. I was reminded, boy, I answered questions in a roundabout way, but sorry.
No,
sorry. Story attached. I was reminded back in the day when I used to be into the conspiracy theory, whatever this conspiracy was at this time, and he was such a good person for me to ground out that idea, because the first thing he said, and he said that today too, is he said, and that's spirit too. And the conspiracy is spirit too. It's filled with perfection too. And I'm like, yeah, it's all filled with perfection. And so he really taught me that underneath it all is a faith, and a faith in something that is so much bigger than the effects that are happening in our world, the pandemic. And so the pandemic on my personal human level at times is frightening, is unsettling, sad, and other times celebratory, because I look at Italians hanging out their windows and singing songs with each other. Like, that is so freaking cool. And Collette was just telling me about Cumberland. Was it 4:30 today?
Yeah. 4:30 today, there was a similar thing, like somebody in Cumberland launched this idea that everybody was to go out either on their patio or their deck or whatever, out their front or back door, and join in a community sound bathing of your choice. So whether you felt like howling at the sky or playing an instrument or oming or chanting or whatever like boisterously loud wanted to come out of you, that then we would all be able to express in that way and also hear each other. So myself and my housemate went out onto our deck and I drummed and she howled, and we hooted and hollered into the atmosphere, and then we'd stop for a moment quietly and listen, and we'd hear it kind of, and the wind was moving it all around, and we were having, it was just in that moment like so much laughter and joy and fun,
Yeah, and it's so there's something bigger than all of us that's happening all the time, not even just some of the time. And I can't help but to think, because my faith is so strong and I've been praying for a world that works for everyone, that's what's inspired me, is to teach spiritual tools so that people can live a joy-filled life and transform their lives and the world be transformed. I can't help but to think that this is part of it. How can it not be?
Right.
How can it not be? I did have someone comment. I was in the forest this weekend and I was leaning against a big old growth tree, or not old growth, but a big second growth tree.
Big tree.
Big, technically correct. And across from me was the stump of an old growth tree. And I mentioned how that stump gave of itself to create something new. And here's this tree. And that life is always doing that. Life is always, things are being destroyed in order for other things to manifest. And so if our economic structures no longer are self-sustaining and they need to fall down so that something more powerfully beautiful can be resurrected, revealed, created. And I think that we've been on that trajectory of change in our world for a long time. And it's been slow and it's subtle. And then there's other things that happen that feel like, oh, are we really making progress?
Yeah.
And I can't help but to feel, because of my faith, underlying all of it, that we're moving in a trajectory that's like all the graphs we're looking at right now, which is a transformational leap for humanity that's required in order to move towards a world that works for everyone.
So kind of what I understand about what you're saying with those two, what I say, like the balance between feeling our feelings, right, and being okay with them, and then acting as if really you're putting in a, it's not about being between or either one. It's about that all of that is spirit, is life in action. It's all good. It's all good unfolding.
Even though it doesn't feel good sometimes. Even
so the kaleidoscope of our feelings are good.
Exactly. That's what the human ride is. Like, how can we, like, I just love Brene Brown's work. It fits so well with Science of Mind. How can we have more joy, but we're not willing to have more sadness? Like, we can't cookie cutter out the emotions that we desire and leave the other ones behind. Like, it doesn't work that way. We're either creating space for the breath of all emotion, or we're cutting off from it, all of it, joy and sadness and fear. And I don't know, I don't want to miss out on the joy and be afraid to have the other emotions. So this is why we're having these conscious conversations, right? And it can change minute to minute. And the thing that I know, I think I was asked, well, why do you and Collette have to meet in person today? Why can't you continue on in Zoom? And I'm like, no, I need Collette here. Like, we're a team, and we can do it in Zoom. But there's something about, like, as soon as we got together today, yes, we kept our 6 feet distance and didn't hug, and I know, it's like, oh. And we, been mindful, and we've each picked our individual toilet that we can use so that we're not sharing toilet space. because it just to connect with Collette, who her and I do this deep, you and I do this deep work together, I feel better.
Mm-hmm.
I instantly feel, oh yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
We got a new program happening. I want you to talk about what we were talking about with the podcasting and
Okay, what do you want me to talk about?
maybe I'll ask you an official question.
Okay.
So Collette, seeing that you can't practice your shiatsu right now, it's your shiatsu therapy because that's hands-on unless you wear, what kind of suit do you wear?
Oh yeah, hazmat.
Unless you showed up in a hazmat suit.
Seems like a scary idea.
I know, wouldn't that be weird? We were talking about how there's lots of pieces in this that I can expose about Collette's life, so I won't expose too much because I already know she doesn't want to be here doing this. I'll let her do it. But we were talking about how you really like doing podcasts, and you started working on the Center's podcast, and you feel like you're in your zone with that. Like it's just really comfortable to be in production with that. And we've also had lots of conversations for about a year and a half now, how I wanted you to stop doing your shiatsu therapy program or practice. And how my vision is the center can hire you full time and we do this bigger work. And how, again, perhaps, little change, and it's like, whoosh, big change. You can't practice your shiatsu therapy, so here we are. And so maybe you want to comment a little bit on that.
I don't know. It's freaky. It's totally freaky. And at the same time, we had this conversation because I also felt that little inner message of, like a little inner message that went, yeah, maybe this is for you in some other way. Maybe this big outside change, like you say, that gradual, humanity shifting gradually over time, but like all of a sudden is like, woo! In my own life, sometimes it's like, even if I desire certain things or I want changes this way, or I really dream about doing that, or, what I'm doing makes it such a slow incremental change, shift, or, or that I'll even allow. Like a lot of times, like, do we even allow the changes? Maybe we just consider that thing, we shelve it like a daydream because we're doing the thing we do and this is what we know, and how would we ever change it, and who would we let down, and that whole thing, right? Like it's super scary. I feel like even as you brought this up now, I'm like, oh, I might throw up on this rug and then we're really in trouble.
Sanitize, oh sanitize.
But there was totally somewhere inside of me today went like, you don't even know how this could be for you, launching a trajectory that is, the different way that you want to go. And right. And I get to explore that right now, because right now it is literally impossible for me to do my career. Literally
the other career.
the career that is my, bread and butter, as they say, that I've been doing forever, that I've studied, that I,
yeah,
it's impossible.
Yeah, it's not something you can do remote very well. Now find that muscle, press on it,
put you outside, spray you with the hose, build a tool that would poke certain areas.
Or you could just guide us. Go like this.
Yeah. Doesn't work.
No.
Yeah, freaky.
It's so curious to me because I've had lots of life-changing experiences. I've been, as most of you know, I've had 3 divorces and 4 marriages. And those are pretty huge life-changing experiences, and vulnerable and challenging. Again, talking about neutralizing, I had a lot of shame around that, and talking about the shame of that, I was told to get over the shame, I just have to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, just another talk about it. Mm-hmm. And so I always look for those things when change is afoot. It's like, something new, right? What's new? Like for instance, when my third husband and I split up, and I really was at a place where I could do anything. I could stay in Campbell River. I could move and live with my mom in Mississauga. I could have gone anywhere. I had no attachments. My kids had grown up and left the house, and I was really in a space to create my life in any way I wanted. And so I'm aware of those times where the rug's pulled out, and it's like, now what do you want? And I was willing at that time, to be honest, to let go of the center here in Campbell River. It was an option. And it was like, yeah, no, you want to be in Campbell River, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, I like Campbell River. Okay, you're in Campbell River. And so I've been looking for that in me through this, right? Because the first, like a week ago, I was reeling. It was really hard a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't get a foothold of, and I had my granddaughter with me, which upped the ante because I didn't have the brain space to even think because she's just talks all day long. And grandma. And so now that I have space and I meditate and what's mine to do, it's like, well, just go to work, Jill. Like, you've got lots to do and you know how to do it. And you've got lots to share and you've got a kick-ass assistant. And your job now is to figure out how to keep doing it. Which, by the way, everybody, thank you so much. I did a call out to our members and friends for donations. And the response was like over the top.
Beautiful.
Yeah, really quite beautiful. And it's filled up our checking account to a place where we can go, okay, we've got time to think, and we do have money in reserves as well, a little bit to carry us a little while. And it's given us time to put our heads around what's next, like, how do we move forward in this? What's next? We've got a building that nobody's using. What does that mean? Mm-hmm. What government support and community support is out there for a charity that has like ourselves? And so that's my job right now. Like I'm unlike yourself, who's your main line of work, you can't work. Mm-hmm. Mine is like my main line of work. Okay, you got new work to do. And it's not, in some respects, hasn't changed a lot for me, except for this weirdness part.
Yeah, for sure. Weird. And you mentioned before the degree of figuring it outness that you are in, right? Where's that on the spectrum of figuring it out and having faith? And
yeah, good question. Is that I think I run that barometer a lot, and I believe it's like, again, I think of Dr. Ken's story of he talks about if we're driving from Vancouver Island to Kelowna, and so we head out on the road and we know what our goal is to get to Kelowna. And so we drive down, we get on the ferry in Nanaimo. We're still allowed to do that, by the way. And you can stay in your cars. And we land in Vancouver and we go, well, this isn't Kelowna. And his message in that is that we do the first thing first. First I got to get in my car and drive to Nanaimo. Then I've got to drive on a ferry and sail across the ocean. Mm-hmm. and the channel. And then I've got to drive off and be in Vancouver. And then I've got to drive to the mountains and drive over the mountains and go to Kelowna. And it's all a process. So I know, again, I have a deep faith that the work that we do here at the center is really powerful and important work. And we're like, I believe we're the work, Science of Mind and all the other authors that we pull on to enhance the science of mind philosophy and the practice of the science of mind philosophy works. And our job here at the center is to get these principles and tools out to people so that they can work them in their own life. And when we're in this kind of space of shifting, uneasy times, we actually have a faith and tools that we can put in place, knowing that we're heading to a world that works for everyone. I'm heading to that. I believe that because I believe in the principle of, now I'm getting hot.
It's getting passionate.
Because I believe in the principle of an infinite universe, which is far greater than this measly little COVID-19 problem in comparison to an infinite universe.
Yeah, totally.
And so not to diminish the stress that it's causing people, because the effect and what's going on, the circumstance is very real.
And our feelings are very real.
All of it is very, very real. And it all rests on a principle of life that is so much grander than that no circumstance, no thing in and of itself has any power. As soon as we turn our backs to it, it's a no thing. So it's only held in energy by the people who are focusing on it and giving it energy. And so back to the Brene Brown idea of naming it, and why I don't like talking about or naming COVID-19, because there's something so much greater to name. And my Facebook prayers and live prayers and our conscious conversations, my intention is to always bring us back to that much bigger thing that's going on, because what we focus on expands. Always, not sometimes, always. And it doesn't mean that I don't go on the Worldometer every day. I check it out. I go on Canada.ca every day, and then I dissect it down to BC, and I know exactly what the numbers are reported across the world right now. I don't memorize them, but because that's the circumstance. I don't want to be an idiot with my head in the sand. I want to be here. I want to be here and there, where the two meet, where heaven and earth meet, and living those within me, meaning I have a totally human experience. And at the same time, I'm always connected to something much bigger than that. So I can be a mess, like I was on Monday, bawling my eyes out with you on Zoom. Oh, you guys, nobody understands me. Was my biggest thing.
So I want us to put our money where our mouth is, as they say. Not really right now.
No, we're not supposed to put money in our mouth.
It's a terrible saying. It's not applicable anymore. But like you said, that we have tools and practices to put out into the world, going in the direction we're going in. And we undulate as human beings, moment to moment, day to day, week to week, whatever, situation to situation, between faith, bigger idea, and current circumstantial stress, whatever. And so I'm going to take you away from this, podium of, to what right now, what is your biggest struggle in all of this personally?
Good question. What wants to jump to my mind is coordinating as always, hasn't changed. It's coordinating my personal life with my passion. And that is where, to be honest with you, that is my struggle. Because there's a part of me that I remember in my third marriage saying to my husband at the time, okay, like he wanted his housewife and he wanted a career woman at the same time. And I remember saying, you know what? I get that you want a housewife to do all these things. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to quit my job and I'll do all the housewife things for you and I'll be totally supportive in that way. And he said, no. He said, no. Anyway, there's a part of me that can do that, that would be happy to stay at home, that wants to stay at home for a while anyway, until I don't want to do it. But there's a part of me that wants to do it and spend more time at home, planting things, being with my husband, cooking meals, going surfing or paddleboarding or biking or snowshoeing on the whim and living in that, what do I want to do in this moment? There's a real strong part of me that wants to do that. And I feel like this whole pandemic has kind of opened up the possibility of that. And yet my struggle is I want to say my freaking calling, man. Because there's this other part of me that is so called to, I want to say to greatness, and I'm afraid to say that. It's kind of the same for you. That's called to greatness, not because I want to be great, but because I know that I have so much to give in a bigger way. I remember years ago watching Dr. Kathy Ann Lewis, who's the minister at Seattle Center for Spiritual Living, and watching her speak at a minister's conference, and she was so inspiring. And I just was bawling my eyes out because I was like, oh my God, being great is my calling. It's what I'm meant to do, and I avoid it like a freaking plague.
Why would you do such a thing?
There's the kettle asking the pot.
No, it's the other way around.
Oh, the pot asking the kettle.
No, I think it's everybody. This is why this is applicable.
It is applicable.
Why on earth would you do that? Avoid the very thing that is your thing you want more than anything in the world.
Isn't it interesting though? I'll divert a little bit. How
I can't touch you.
You can still be hard ass from afar. Isn't it interesting that even to say the word, my calling is to be great, how I feel, that's conceited. That's my next thought.
Mm.
It's like, how dare you say that? Mm-hmm. Who do you think you are to be great? Mm-hmm. Who are you anyway? Mm-hmm. You think you're going to be great? Mm-hmm. Like, why you? You're just stupid. I think that's my brother. Thanks, Mark. You're listening to this. You should listen to this. Oh yeah, I'll go should my own brother. Oops. Yeah. I know it. And yet I'm terrified of it. And I really feel it's why when I said, you came to the office today and how my stress level just went, because I feel like I don't want to do it alone. I feel like if I can have a partner in it, then somehow that's, like we talk about how we have these tough conversations and we practice these tools together. If I can have a partner in this as I walk forward, mm-hmm. I can do that. Mm-hmm. But the thought of doing it alone is, I don't want to do it alone.
So that's probably what you avoid more than greatness.
Is
loneliness.
Yeah, I don't want to be alone. I don't think anybody wants to be alone.
That's why this conversation is applicable.
Why is it applicable?
because like, you're going down we're painting a picture. Your experience is painting a picture for me as I sit here and going, what are the things that I avoid that are my true nature, that want to express through me, that wants to give life, that life wants to give through me, that I blockade because of my fears and feelings and stories and what have you.
Yeah, so loneliness, and I've dug down before it's annihilation, right? It's like, that's another piece of it. If I'm great, if I expose myself in a greater way, then I'm available for people to point a finger at and to criticize and to humiliate and to, for instance, some of you watching may have got our letter asking for donations in this time to help us through this hump. And again, thank you. Guys, thank you. And we got one response back that said, "How dare you?
It's disgusting.
That's disgusting." And I was like, wow. But those are the things I think that I avoid. If I play small, right? If I played small on behalf of the center and I didn't ask, I wouldn't have received that email. And so the protection, the desire for me to protect myself, to protect that poor innocent child inside, that only is asking for the benefit of keeping this work alive because I believe in it so strongly. I can hold back and play smaller and just make do to avoid that. And so I guess I'm trying to teach myself the whole practice of vulnerability is that it's not easy, but it becomes normal. So to allow myself to be exposed to my own greatness, and so I'm convincing myself right now, everybody, and this is the third step of an affirmative prayer, allow myself to convince myself that by practicing being great and receiving that kind of feedback, that I can look at it in the face and go, this isn't about me. Because my asking is not something that's disgusting. I don't know where they're coming from at all. And bless them. They're in a different reality. And we talk about our tribe, and I don't want to belittle any other person's path because their path is as real for them as ours is for us. And so to bless it and let it go and just keep on. Because there's a whole tribe of people who want to be self-empowered and to take each moment and to live it to the best of their ability by being awake and aware and having a deep faith in something greater. Did I answer your question?
I got another one.
Okay, good. Ask another one. I can't see the clock. Can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
What happens when we're trying to live to the best of our ability and we hit these walls within ourselves, or we get pulled in the downward spiral of fear, or we distract and isolate to avoid, or we, all these endless ways in which we stop moving forward in the direction we want to live, that feel good feeling that's bogged down by, let's go right back to your struggle right now. The balance between home and work, passion.
And so what was your question?
When we're going down the road, our trajectory of the life we want to live, and we're like, yay, and you're such a torch carrier for that. And we hit a wall. We hit one of those walls. We're pulled this way into fear, or we run into, our, whatever that deep feeling wall is of loneliness and annihilation. And
So what happens?
Yeah. What happens for you?
It's horrible. The dark night of the soul. I've been there many times, and it's painful. It's so, for me, it's such a painful place, such a raw place. And it feels like that place of, I want to call it quicksand, because it's like that sucking energy of all those negative beliefs that I have about myself, just trying to pull me down further, and it's just so real. And all I can do is barely breathe through it. If it lasts a day or a week or however long it lasts, weeks, months, and again, it's my teaching, my faith, that I know that I think of it as that black hole is the place of infinite possibility. So even though it feels so raw, it's the birth of something that I haven't even considered yet. Like
what about those of us who don't have that unwavering faith?
What about it? Then what?
Quicksand.
Reach out. I mean, the first thing, I don't know. I mean, I guess when we don't have a faith and we're in that place and it's dark and we don't know what to do, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to think back when I first started going to the center before I had a knowing and how terrible my life was in so many ways. I remember running into the woods and the pain on the inside was so great that I would scratch my face to try and have an outer expression of what the pain was on the inside. I didn't know what to do. All I could do was run and scratch my face.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking for some relief from that pain. And I guess my message is that, how did I end up here? I kept walking forward because I couldn't help not to walk forward because I'm alive, until with a desire, with a hope, a desire, or an understanding that there's got to be another way. And I just don't know it yet. Like I was lost. There's got to be another way. I remember thinking, this is hell. There's got to be another way. And that was enough for me to start looking. And once I started looking, I would find little tidbits here. I first started going to, I was on a search of another way. And I first found myself, bump into something and it's like, oh, well, I'll try this. And it was going to sweat lodges. That was great. That was a really great part of my healing. Still is. And so I guess all I can say is you just keep looking for that other way of what suits, oh, that's interesting. I'll try that. Then I went to an intermediate meditation course and we started learning how to do psychic readings. And yet it was like years later, I went back and took a review of the same course and I'm like, she was teaching us the science of mind. And I didn't even know it, Does that answer your question? I mean,
yeah, it does in a way, because it's hard to get out of the idea when you have a strong faith. It's hard to get out of that, in a moment when you're feeling it and you're quite connected to it. It's hard to, put yourself aside and go, okay, well, what if I didn't have that? What if I didn't have, what if I wasn't, not that I didn't have it, because we all have it. What if I wasn't so tuned in, connected to that bigger idea, that sort of divinity that I am?
Mm-hmm.
And, you got a freaking pandemic happening around you.
Right. What do you do?
Then what? Right. And it makes sense. You say that just keep stepping, just keep trying, just keep trying something different, try a different way, find what works, and essentially back to the beginning, be okay. It's okay how we feel. There's so much outside of our control all the time.
There's no right way to feel right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's everything from panic to total calm to anxiety to, anger, all of it. It's a mess. And all of it's good and all of it's right. There's no perfect way. Lost, want to hide, want to run. I remember back in those days when I didn't have life was really messy. And I would take the kids were really little, and we would go to the Naramata Festival for awareness. I don't even know if they hold them anymore, but and you would get a schedule, and it had all these different things that you could go to. And I remember looking at the schedule, and some of it I wasn't interested in, and some of it I was. And I guess that's the same with, there used to be a magazine. Oh, I don't know if I can remember what the name of it was, published by the same people that put on the Naramata Festival of Awareness, and it came out of Penticton. And it was a spiritual magazine. And I remember, flipping through it and all these different people advertising all the different things that they did for healing work of any kind, right? Crystals, and there was everything in there. And I remember being drawn to one and not another, right? And I think that's the process. It's to be a seeker in the first place. And if you're not a seeker, what do you do then? I mean, I guess I've always been a seeker, so I don't know. What about that person who feels so hopeless that they're not even looking? I'm really reading a really great book right now. I can't remember the name of the author, but it's Untamed, I believe. I was going to grab my phone, but we're using it. Untamed, and she talks about, she's got a great story. She was bulimic and an alcoholic, and she wasn't looking to be helped, and she was in big trouble. She was not doing well. And she tells her story about doing a pregnancy test, and the strip showed she was pregnant. And here she was, she had just drank herself silly that night, the night before. And she's looking at this test strip, and she's like, oh yeah, I want to be a mom. And she said she doesn't know whether it was her drunken stupor that had that thought, or if indeed she did want to be a mom. You know what I mean? So I think life pushes us in that way all the time. And if we add to it a little bit of curiosity about, there's hope. Hope is that first bud on a branch. If we go out, some of the trees are budding already in flower, they're just starting. But if we go out to the ones that aren't, and we can just see, like my apple tree, I can just start to see the hint of a bud. And that's the hope. If we could just have a little hope and cultivate that.
Mixed with being okay with what is,
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I get that.
How are you feeling right now?
Inspired. I want to get down and get to work. We got stuff to do.
What are you inspired about with a couple minutes left?
Yeah, I have no idea what time it is.
Yeah, you got like 3 minutes.
Oh. I'm inspired to connect more with you people. We have a Back to Basics course I don't even know what to call it, book study. Back to Basics, Science of Mind. We have a whole shelf of Science of Mind books. Science of Mind. Look at that. Science of Mind. Back to Basics, Science of Mind book study that's starting, and on Tuesday, live on Zoom. You can jump in on that. And we're going to be, in the next 4 weeks, working on the first 4, the introduction, and the first 4 parts of the introduction. So the first one is the thing itself. Because I guess along all the journeys that I've been on, at the end of the day, I say it over and over again, have hope and get a faith in something. And I thought, what do we need to do right now? We need to deepen in our faith and our understanding, getting a bigger idea. I talk about in classes about, here's a circle of my consciousness and my awareness of what I think is possible. And in a universe of infinite possibility, that's a pretty small idea. And so if I want to get to a place where I have a bigger understanding, all of a sudden I can take in a bigger possibility. And the only way I know how to do that is to deepen to grow a faith. And a bigger faith encapsulates a bigger understanding and a bigger idea of what's possible, even in a pandemic. And I'm determined to stay in that possibility. We should close with a prayer.
I'm ready for it.
So this is what I know. I'd invite you to take in a deep breath with me and let it go. I know that there is just one power, one presence, one infinite energy, interconnecting all together as one. Life, humanity, the animal kingdom, the natural world, the environment, the atmosphere, Mother Earth, you and me, all of it, and beyond that which I can even begin to understand is this one. And this one is always expressing and changing and growing and becoming. I'm immersed in this. It is me. It is this pandemic expressing itself, wanting to be heard and understood in a way as it moves life towards a bigger understanding of life itself. And so I ground deeper into my faith. I take time to pick up spiritual literature of any kind and read and study. I take time to find moments of quiet and go within that I can tap into that inner voice that is connected to the most profound wisdom that exists. And I listen. And I know that I am always guided each and every day in a direction that is for my highest and best, and for the highest and best of everyone around me. I have faith, and I cultivate this faith, and it is good. And I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for the deep understanding and wisdom that continues to grow within me. I'm so grateful to share this wisdom with my fearless assistant, Collette, and to share this wisdom with our members and friends on Facebook and YouTube. I'm so grateful for the ability to be present with so many, even though we're not together. And I'm so grateful for the law of the universe that is always unfolding and always moving towards a bigger idea of wholeness. I surrender in confidence. I let go to this power, to this presence, and to the wisdom of the one, knowing all is well, and so it is. Thank you. Blessings. Bye, everybody. Now I'm going to hit the off button. End stream.
2 off buttons.
2 off buttons. End.